Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
A very good evening, everybody, and welcome along to round 3 of the Championship Virtual Reality Racing Club. And it's Richard John Neal here. I'm very pleased to say, first time working with him for 18 months. Jack Oliphant. Hello, mate. How are you?
No, not bad, Richard. Yeah, it's lining up to be a fantastic championship, and it's all the better for having you involved in it as well. So hopefully the drivers put on a bit of a show. I know that you were here 2 weeks ago with Andy, obviously, but yeah, you're right. This is the first time that we've actually managed to work together for quite some time.
It is, yeah. C1s, wasn't it, last time? So things are going to be a little bit quicker. No disrespect to the C1 boys, but totally different ball game. And lovely to have been back. Thoroughly enjoyed my first outing, and great that we get the chance to work with yourself as well as Andy McEwen as well. And I think we're going to be a little bit of a triumvirate in a few pit lanes and paddocks in another world, in the real world over the season, which I look forward to as well, mate.
Yeah, so that's really exciting for me, obviously, being involved in some of the big car racing stuff in the real life, but hopefully this doesn't disappoint. Sim racing, real life racing, some people have a prejudice. For me and what I've experienced over the last couple of years with VRRC, there's not that much difference when you actually come down to it in terms of the excitement and the adrenaline that the drivers out there feel. It's going to be really exciting. But anyway, we can have a look back at what happened last week. You said you were here 2 weeks ago, Richard. Unfortunately, you missed a cracker last week.
Like it.
Top 3 ends up just like you see on screen. Tom Churchhouse coming out on top, Nicky Taylor in second, and Joel Lask in third. It was one hell of a race, very close in the first race, which ended up seeing Nicky Taylor take the victory. And in the second race, of course, it was battling throughout, but that top podium step really came down to the last couple of laps with the likes of Tom Churchhouse and Joel Lask, and a few other drivers. Smith, I think, was in there as well. So yeah, very impressive driving all round. Hopefully they deliver here at Castle Combe.
Oh, I'm sure they will do, and I know this has attracted, the fact that we've got Castle Combe on the calendar has attracted several drivers in because it is a little bit out of the norm. I'm not sure whether, I don't think the current spec JCWs have been round there on their own. Certainly Mini Challenge probably would have done back in the day, a few seasons ago. So this is, something slightly different. I think a nice attraction for everybody, and I don't know how regularly you race on it in the sim world in other championships. Is it a regular?
It's not particularly, I'll have to be honest. It is a bit of a curveball for the drivers. I mean, normally you get the classics, you get the Silverstones, you get the Brands Hatch Indies, or even the GPs, Oulton Park, all those sort of things. But Castle Combe is one of those tracks that we like to throw in there every so often when we do a sort of a national championship with the likes of the Minis or Civics or Caterhams or anything else. It's when we're not flying everybody out over Europe or over to Asia or anything like that. Castle Combe's a nice little gem that we like to stick in there. Mainly because Rich has some vendetta against Knock Hill, which is the best circuit in the UK. But that means we end up at a place like this.
Nothing wrong with a bit of Knock Hill, but equally nothing wrong with a bit of Castle Combe as well.
No, exactly. It's a great circuit, Richard. And I think, to be fair, before we get into the action, we can have a look at the championship because, of course, Joel Lask, top of the order, but by only 4 points, Richard.
Absolutely right. So what you're looking at there are the on the right-hand side, the drop scores. But he's top either way is Joel Lask, with Brad Smith in second position. Tom Churchhouse, stunning week last week, as you heard from Jack, gets him up into third place. Nicky Taylor in fourth from Josh Martin. John Higgins was absent last week, so we haven't had a Jack Oliphant comment on John Higgins yet, but Johnny's back this week, I believe. So he's sixth from Nathan Smith and Thomas Potter. The Teapot in eighth. Chris Blakey ninth. Top 10 completed at the moment by Andy Carroll, who's going to be giving us a little bit of a hot lap around the Castle Combe circuit in a few minutes' time. 11th is Craig Curtis from Kenny Press. The Hyro Motorsport pairing 11th and 12th. Lee Piercy is 13th from John Jones and Johnny Ogden 15th. Then it's Paul Laramie. Zamfir Radu 17th from Sam Milner and Simon Croft. Stu Henderson wrapping up our top 20. I remember in the first race of the first anniversary race of the season, he was way off the front, had a good strong performance early doors there. Alec Eingar next up from Sam Walton. And the scorers completed by Matt Smith and Mark Stokes. Still to get off the ground, Julian Alwandy and Adam Lyall. Two new drivers. Welcome to the championship and the grid. Elliot Daltonez and Dave Heisman. Great to have new drivers coming in. So there might be the odd slot if you are watching for the first time, want to get yourself up and running, then please do join in. Get in touch with Rich Hayden and the team here, and they'll see if they can squeeze you in. Elliot and Dave, though, great to have them on board with us.
Yeah, I don't know much about Dave Heisman, but Elliot Daltonez is a driver who's been in around the VRRC for quite some time. He's been in it as long as I have, basically, for probably nearly 2 years or so, or maybe even over that, actually, which is a little bit scary. But he's definitely going to be a front runner. There's no doubt about that. It's a bit of a shame that he didn't turn up for the first couple of weeks because, of course, he's wasted his drop score already and then won. So it's he's going to have a bit of a tough order to fight to the top. But you know he's going to be in and around those podium positions. Right, if you're wondering what Castle Combe looks like, then don't you worry about a thing, because Richard John Neal is about to talk you around a lap with the assistance of the minute.
Yeah, and the assistant of Andy Carroll. So our stats man doing the business here today. It's been a while since but great to be back here and give you this guiding tour of the circuit, which had its first race way back in 1950. It was pretty much the same layout, but a few amendments made since then. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But here we go, going into Folly for the first time. Avon Rise next up before the cars head down into Quarry for the first time. Down we go through Avon Rise. This is Quarry. You can see the distinctive red and black markers drifting out towards the outside along Farm Straight now. The next big thing that they've got to deal with is the first of those chicanes that were brought in to slow the circuit down. This is the S's, grabbing the curbs on the exit, then heading immediately into Old Paddock Bend, down towards Tower Corner. Run there perhaps too far as we head down to the very long Tower Corner now. And again, they've got to set themselves up for the next chicane, which is Bobby's. So out of Tower, Bobby's is upcoming now. You can see the track indicator pulling them through. Slowing down isn't really something that happens that much. But out of Bobby's, onto Westway, now onto Dean Straight, the final bit before the final corner, which is Camp Corner, coming up to now. Here we go, around Camp Corner. A TCR lap around here, 1 minute 7.066, the record with Chris Smiley. And what's the lap time we get from Andy Carroll? Andy does it in a none too shabby 1:10.55. And Andy was your guide here around Castle Combe. It's going to be a little bit difficult. 26 drivers into the mix for Mr. Carroll for sure, though.
It's going to be a bit of a hectic one, I think, for Andy Carroll. He has got these opportunities throughout the season where all of a sudden he'll turn up one evening and he'll be absolutely rapid. Normally he's about around that sort of top 10 running pace, you know, that sort of 7th to 12th. But all of a sudden, or if it's touring cars, it's front-wheel drive, whatever it is, all of a sudden he comes alive for 1 or 2 rounds, and we always love to see it as well because he's always such a genuinely happy person when he comes on the podium, comes in for an interview as well. So it is really nice. Joel Lask is on your screen now. This is qualifying. They haven't actually set in a lap at all yet. In fact, the first ones are about to log on to the left-hand side of your screen. But Joel Lask is, well, he's the championship favourite now, isn't he, being at the top of the order? And he probably won't thank me for saying that, Richard. But it is a position that everybody will be jealous of, apart from him, because he probably feels a bit of a target on his back. That's
always the thing, isn't it? A lot of drivers prefer being chasers at particularly an early stage of the season, rather than maybe having the points in the bag. And Joel, as we mentioned, you know, he's top on drop scores. I know it's early to talk about drop scores after the second event, but it's great for us to keep that perspective on it. But, you know, top in both standings. So we've got Brad Smith second on total points scored and joint third at the moment with Tom Churchhouse, and Nicky Taylor second on drop scores. So we'll see how things pan out for him. But Joel looks like he's made a pretty good start and perhaps not surprising.
Yeah, no, it's he'll be definitely one to try and just get away and get on with it. He's not really worried about the slipstream or anything in this early stages. Of course, they're going to have to warm the tyres up. They're going to then do some laps, get into a rhythm again. Then they'll pit, get the new tyres on, and hope that they can put in their fastest laps. Right towards the end, John Higgins has just fired himself up into provisional second place, just behind our championship leader. You're right, I haven't really had much of a comment to say about John Higgins. I haven't seen him race yet, Richard, which is a bit of a shame. But I've heard that he's a rather handy in the back of a real car and in the sim as well. So by the looks of it, he is doing exactly that. Tom Churchhouse, another newcomer to this championship. He has been for the first two. He has been here for the first 2 weeks, picked up a fair few podiums. But it's really nice to see that he's again growing and getting faster and faster and faster. It's such a big grid, Richard. I don't know what your sort of experience is with sim racing and stuff like that. Did you expect to see such a high level and competitive grid that we have here?
I knew it was going to be sharp, and you know, to see such a good entry was not a surprise, because people like to enter competitions that are well run, well organised, and also have, you know, strong. You want to beat the best drivers, so I wasn't really surprised that it's a good, strong entry. And you know, I'm sure we'll get a few, you know, dip away as these championships go on. We always get that over the course of the of any series, particularly when you've got, you know, eight Wednesdays on the bounce. It's very often difficult. Missing a couple myself. I'm back next week, but off the week after. But yeah, I'm not a surprise, and you know, very, very good stuff that we had that first week on the Donington Park layout, and John Higgins Jr. getting the win in the reverse grid race, and he was being caught. He's got a bit of ballast now, though. I think he's moved up a level, hasn't he?
Yeah, you'll be right. I'm just having a look, actually, at how much ballast. He'll have 20 kilos on board, which is still under half of the likes of Joel Lask, because he'll have the success ballast on board from him winning a race and obviously doing quite well in the championship. But his driver's rating won't necessarily represent how good he is yet either. And obviously he'll have to log in quite a few number of championships and rounds before he starts getting extra weight added on. I think you can get up to 25 kilos of success ballast, and then you can add another 25 kilos potentially if you're top of the VRRC driver rankings, which is far too complicated for me to explain, Richard. Frankly, I don't even bother these days. I just look at how many kilos people have on board and I go, yeah, okay, I'm sure Richard probably done it right. But Nicky Taylor, who's jumped to the top of the times now, only by less than a tenth of a second, but still on the top, as somebody teleports through the Armco on the left-hand side. Bit of a strange one there. Johnny Ogden up to top 10 as well. Now, he's a driver that I've been keeping an eye on, because he, in the World Endurance League, I believe, he made his first appearance, and he's been doing quite well ever since.
Yeah, Johnny qualified 19th at Donington Park, and then was in the top 10 last time out with yourself and Andy. So he's looking to try and replicate that now, but he might have dropped down now to into 10th place. John Higgins drops down to 7th. Bit of background on John Higgins for you. If you used to watch Legends racing today, John is the son of John Higgins, the multi-Legends cars champion, and helps out with Hills Motorsport in Mazda. So apologies to the viewers that know that I, you know, ran that fact out last time, but you know, if maybe someone is along today that doesn't know that.
Me.
But well, there you go. So it's a good reminder. And he was late on. He actually only joined because he saw my social media post. His dad picked up and he said, "Hey, Junior, do you want to do this?" So advertising pays, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's nice that we're getting some new championship runners in, and I think from any stream, Richard. But of course, you've got such a pull on social media, haven't you? That clearly people are itching at the bit to have you commentate over them. We've also got a fair few other drivers towards the rear end of the field, which I'm slightly surprised about. One of which is Josh Martin. Now, Josh Martin is a driver who is forever entertaining us and forever perplexing us as well at the same time, because he can be absolutely ballistic or he can be absolutely nowhere. And to be honest, today he seems to be absolutely nowhere, and I'm not quite sure why, because he did seem to be picking up the pace in the first 2 rounds of the championship. We were all excited to have a chat to him again. I think one of you or Andy might have even chatted to him in the first round at Donington Park. We didn't get a chance at Silverstone, but he was fairly up there, battling around those top 5s. Currently outside the top 20 is Josh, and I'm not sure why. Maybe he's hoping to get on screen with a I don't know, on the Zoom call or something like that. I don't think we even do that anymore. But he's struggling really badly right now in 21st position, and I think it's because he keeps chucking it off. This sector 2, I think he's doing the S's, or one of the chicanes anyway. It might be Bobby's. I think he's cutting it a little bit too fine and pinging the track limits sensor. Yeah, there we go. Track cut on the mid sector, so that is probably going to be Bobby's, isn't it? When he actually jumped back to him, which it did look like he was all over that inside curb, didn't it? Which is, you could probably gain quite a lot of time, but you're not actually on the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm pretty sure. Now, I did an interview with Josh when we had the official JCW series during lockdown. I'm fairly sure, doesn't he come from this part of the world? Gloucester, so sort of. It probably would be his home track if we were doing it for real. So I'd expect him to. He was there last weekend, apparently. So yeah, okay. So yeah, well, we'll see if he can work his way a little bit further up the order.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see, because Brad Smith is another driver that I was sort of keeping an eye out on, and to be honest, I couldn't even find him on the left-hand side because I was too busy. Obviously, anybody out there who's wondering where all the first initials have come from, Rich has finally put the initials on so we can tell the difference between all the Smiths. Absolutely delightful. So Brad Smith, you can see, is currently sat in 8th position, second in the championship. He didn't really have anything to talk about at Silverstone. Me and Andy were potentially thinking it was a little bit of a blip. Maybe it was just the driving style he wasn't happy with on the circuit, or somebody didn't like Silverstone International. But here at Castle Combe, it doesn't seem to be going his way either, does it, Richard? And I wonder, and Castle Combe is a very, I wouldn't say weird circuit, but it's a circuit that isn't really like many others. Much like a lot in the UK, actually, if you compare it to the likes of Oulton Park, Brands Hatch, and the likes. But it's just very, very fast, very, very flat. I just wonder if Brad Smith just doesn't quite have the momentum with him tonight.
Yeah, that could well be it. It's yeah, it is a very unique circuit, and if you've not been down for real, get yourself down there. And Chris Dawes was the guy I meant to name check earlier on. The commentator helps out with the racing school there as well. You'll get a very, very friendly welcome and a great day's sport down there. The key thing that strikes me about the track, though, we might see if we get an onboard somebody coming out. It's got the narrowest pit in and pit out in the country, hasn't it? It's very quaint, but a fantastic place to go and watch.
Yeah, well, it sort of reminds me. I was trying to think. Actually, is it unlike any other circuit in the country? The only one I can really compare it to is Thruxton.
Yeah,
really, isn't it? Because it's very, very fast. I mean, the fact that you pointed out that they had to add those 2 chicanes in just to slow it down. Otherwise, it would just be a weirdly shaped square. So it's very, very fast. It's very, very difficult to pick your braking points, pick your turn-in points as well for the likes of Tower Corner. It's just, and the corners seem to go on forever, don't they, apart from the chicanes. I'm wondering where we're going to get those overtaking manoeuvres done, really. Obviously, Tower is going to be a big one, much like Tower is Croft. And Quarry Corner as well. I think some people might end up giving it a go down there. But those are the 2 main points, aren't they?
Yeah, we might get some dives into the 2 chicanes as well. It's a possibility. So yeah, we'll just wait and see. I think the last set of races I commentated on in the real world were VRRC Fiesta championships, and when they were running 4 different classes, you know, going back to the older STs, and as I say, they had 4 of them, and they were actually able to bang everybody out. And it's a track that some drivers elected not to race at. A bit like Thruxton, we had that in Ginetta where you would maybe give Thruxton a miss, and I've never ever blamed a driver for doing that. If they're not comfortable, the only thing they're going to do on track is upset somebody else and cause a problem. So I fully respect drivers that in the real world do maybe give a miss to tracks that they don't fancy, and I think that was the case with the Fiestas, because the probably the reason was because they're not there regularly enough to get familiar with it and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Thruxton is a difficult one. We have raced at Thruxton on VRRC, so regular viewers will know my thoughts on Thruxton and know my stories and everything like that. But when I did it in the Ginetta, it was truly terrifying. And I could do Church, I could do all the sort of fast corners, apart from one, I think it was Noble. And it is a case of you have to do lots of laps and build yourself up to it. But if you've only got the opportunity to go for 1 test day on the Friday before the event, you're not
Yeah.
got a chance, really, because you probably, as we see Brad Smith, I think that is, the number 68, having a bit of a spin.
Stuart
No, it
Henderson.
wasn't Brad Smith, apologies there. Who was it? Was it Rich?
Stuart Henderson.
Oh, Stuart Henderson, yeah. So, yeah, if you only get 2 sessions on an official practice session, you're not going to get used to the likes of Combe. You're not going to get used to the likes of Thruxton. So you're probably not going to get the results you want anyway. All you're going to do is either upset someone or upset your bank account when you smash into the wall. So it's not one of those things you really want to go and try and be brave on, shall we say. Nicky Taylor, top of the times. He's certainly being brave. Obviously, mini driver in real life. He's currently 0.3 of a second ahead of Elliot Dalton-Ayres and Andy Carroll in third, who, as I said, actually, he was our guide round here, Richard, wasn't he, in that track walk? And, well, frankly, I said that he can turn up every so often and just put in a stellar performance. That looks like that's going to be tonight.
Yeah, 4th in quali at Silverstone. So is he going to go one better this weekend? Who's going to get the interview with us at the moment? It does look like Nicky Taylor, who has been quick straight out of the box, hasn't he? Very, very impressive from Taylor. Always enjoy watching him on the real life stuff, even if I'm not commentating on him. You know, I went down for the opening rounds last year of the mini challenge and the closing round, indeed, just to follow up on the guys that we see 3 times a year currently on the touring car program, and they're always very well received by the touring car crowds.
Well, it's a hell of a championship, isn't it? And
They
do put on a bit of a show. Yeah, they put on a show, and that's exactly what the touring car fans come down to see, isn't it? It's all about the show, in fact. So, in fact, even the driver's briefing, I know, actually sometimes mention that it's a show. So, but less about that. Nicky Taylor, though, is absolutely flying, isn't he? And he's going around the final corner with a minute to go. I don't really see anybody who's going to trouble him, apart from Elliot Dalton-Ayres, has just gone green in sector 1. Nicky Taylor did just put in a green sector 3, but it wasn't good enough to actually extend his pole position time. Dalton-Ayres, he's lost it through sector 2. I don't think there's going to be a pole position time, and everybody else is slower than on previous occasions, apart from potentially Stuart Henderson in that second sector. I'm just having a look. Where is Josh Martin ending up? Dave Heasem, he is in 24th position on his opening round here with the VRRC. Obviously, Elliot Dalton-Ayres returning to the championship. He's in 2nd place currently, which is not bad. Joel Lask, championship leader, in 4th. Andy Carroll currently in 3rd. Everybody else is pretty much getting into the pits because no one seems to want to be able to improve. Sam Walton looked like he was going to improve, and I think he might have done. He's up to 17th position. Apart from that, Richard, I think our pole position, man, is pretty much set. Elliot Dalton-Ayres, though, has just gone green in sector 1, and there is about 5 seconds left. He can get this lap done.
He could well do it. We've got the clock running down. It runs out now, so everyone's just got to get around to the checker. And the thing that strikes me potentially in this is that we could end up for race 5 of the series having a 5th different winner in the chat. So all different race winners thus far. And I think, well, it looks like we will have 3 different pole setters. So Nicky takes the checker, and it's him that we'll be talking to in a few moments' time. Elliot Dalton-Ayres is in P2, Andy Carroll P3, Joel Lask in 4th place from Chris Blakey, and John Higgins in 6th, Lee Piercy 7th, Craig Curtis is in 8th, Brad Smith 9th, Johnny Ogden wrapping up your top 10 at the moment. I'm going to do a little bit of scribbling, so I've got a grid that I can refer to. But yeah, Nicky Taylor nailed it from the word go, didn't he?
He did indeed, and we'll be able to obviously have a chat to Nicky Taylor whilst you're doing your scribbling, Richard, in a couple of minutes' time, because we're going to go to a very quick 30 second to a minute advert break.
So, qualifying done, and the man on our virtual qualifying podium is Nicky Taylor. Nicky, Richard, John Neal here. How are you doing, fella? Well done.
I'm all right. You?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking. That you nailed it from the word go there. No, nobody beat you off the top at all. So, what was the strategy like going into that?
To be fair, in practice, I knew I was quick. Like I've been 2-3 tenths quicker than most people throughout the whole night. So it's been coming, and I made a little setup change about an hour and a half ago, and it seemed to make the car like a missile in a straight line and in the corners. So yeah, I was a bit surprised Elliot wasn't a bit closer than what he was, because his times in practice were quite quick, and then yeah, he wasn't as close as what I thought. But yeah, I was just happy to get the one, because after the one, I just put it on race fuel and just saw what I could do with race fuel for a bit, and I was doing consistent fives, so I think the pace is there.
How much difference do you find it between qualifying when you can find your own bit of track and basically be out there on your own, and then being aware of everybody else and actually having to jostle? I mean, for your sake, obviously you're hoping you don't have to jostle, you can get a rocket ship start and get away. But how much difference is it in terms of mindset?
It's hard, because obviously this track is quite tight in the chicanes. Like the straights and the first two corners are completely fine, but into the chicanes especially, it's going to be so difficult, especially in the reverse grid race later. It's so tight. People can go for so many different overtaking opportunities that it's going to be a tough one. But honestly, I just get my head down, try and do qualifying lap after qualifying lap in race one, and just try and pull away. But Elliot's going to make it a hell of a lot hard. I know for a fact he will, because I've raced with Elliot before. He used to be with HFT, so I know how he races. So it's gonna be hard, but I think we'll have a fair race and put on a good show.
Yeah, you nicked my next question. Actually, I'm going to ask about racing with Elliot and what your thoughts on that. But I'll move it back a place and say, obviously we've got Joel Lask, who's got that wee lead at the moment in the championship, and he's on P3, so you've got to keep an eye on the mirror as well for him.
Yeah, I mean, Joel's weight, to be fair, the times he's doing, like with doing a 5 or a 6, whatever he done in quali, with 45 kg is remarkable, because I wouldn't expect him to be anywhere near that time. I would be impressed with him if he was to do a 10.8. So with him doing the times he's doing, it definitely shows the pace he has got and how much the weight does affect the car. But yeah, it's just going to be having to pull away, because if I get caught back in the pack with Andy, Elliot, and Joel, I think it's not going to be a hard slow race. It's just going to be a lot harder than what it would be for me to just try and pull away.
I've got a couple of people sort of asking me and saying that they're coming along and watching these for the first time, and one of the questions I asked at the first round, and I'll ask you the same thing. What can you fiddle with and change, and how do you physically do it? The changes for the race.
The setups are basically fixed completely. Apart from, you have ride height change you can do, brake bias and pressures. I'm pretty sure are the only other. Oh, and rear wing. But yeah, the ride height I've fiddled around with. I've got it set to what I need and what feels comfortable with me. And yeah, the wing I've pretty much kept the same throughout the whole championship. I won't say what it is, just because I don't want anyone tagging along. But yeah, there's not a lot to do, and to be honest, there's not that much time within the setups. Like, they're all relatively close together. If you get somewhat of a decent setup put together and somewhat of an okay understanding of the ride height, you should be relatively high up there. And Rich has done a really, really good job with helping people with the ride height, me especially, because I was a bit slow at Donington, and then I asked Rich, and he told me the ride height settings, and they seem to work. So yeah, it's all good, and it's all like a nice family atmosphere that we can help each other with setups.
Hang on, mate. You just said you were slow at Donington, 3rd and 5th.
Yeah, the lap times compared to Joel were a bit slow until the actual night. My lap times were not consistent at all.
Well, we'll take that. I'm going to let you get on and prep for the race. But Nicky, thanks for chatting to us. Congratulations on getting that pole, 3rd different pole setter of the year. Are we going to see a 5th different race winner of the campaign as well? We'll wait and see. Wish you well for the race, mate, and thanks for having a natter.
Thank you. Cheers.
So interesting to hear the thoughts of Nicky Taylor, who qualifies on pole position. And I think before we go into our racing, a reminder of what else is coming up from the Virtual Reality Racing Club with Jack.
Yes, thank you very much, Richard. It was nice to hear from Nicky, actually. So the World Endurance League, well, we've already done 2 rounds of it. We were Qatar and Imola. They were both fairly thrilling early January, or actually mid-January, I should say. And then we go to the round 3 and 4 in a couple of weeks' time, because of course these are sort of padding out the rest of the championships that we do here at the VRRC. So we head to Spa and Le Mans on the 10th and 24th of April, respectively. Then we'll have another 8-week championship before we then go to round 5 and 6, where we'll see Sao Paulo and Kota be the top billings for those mid-July. And then round 7 and 8 will finish off the year after another 8-week championship at Fuji and Bahrain. We had a pretty full grid, actually, for Qatar and Imola, and we're hoping to have a similar numbers, if not more, as the season progresses. We can get a choice between the BMW, Lamborghini, or Lexus, or the Mercedes. And if anybody wants to join the championship, the Lexus needs some love, so there you go. First, second, third prizes are the trophies that VRRC kindly get for us, and there's, of course, driver of the round. 90 minutes endurance races, all fully broadcasted like you see here. And you saw in the first 2 rounds of myself and Andy McEwen. The entry fee for VRRC members is absolutely free. It's nothing. All you need to do is be a member of the VRRC community, paying for it. And the non-member round is a non-member fee is £10 per round. That's 90 minutes of racing, fully worth it. Not only is there the minis and the 90-minute races in front of me, there we go, the World Endurance League. There is also the 2 15-minute races, that is the trucks. And of course, Nürburgring, Zolder, and the LM Bugatti. And the reason why I was just stuttering there is because I think Nürburgring actually was a couple of days ago. In fact, it was. I remember seeing it on my YouTube feed. So round 1 has already come and gone with the Nürburgring GP, a fairly underrated circuit, in my humble opinion. Much better than Nordschleife, which I know is a bit of a hot take, but I don't like Nordschleife. Zolder is second and upcoming on March the 3rd in a couple of weeks' time. And then obviously before we finish off at LM Bugatti. And Rich, from what I can tell on the community, it was fairly well received, wasn't it? Very quickly in my ear. Very well received. There we go. I mean, Rich would say it, but you get my point. 2 15-minute races, as I said, with a live watch along, so not fully broadcasted with myself and John, Richard John Neal, sorry, or Andy McEwen, but fairly well presented. Anyway, we still got 2 to run through and 3 minutes to do it. Well, 2 minutes to do it. The time attacks. We've already had the Alpine of round 1 on the 22nd of January to the 5th of February. That's come and gone. The round 2 was also come and gone. The Aston Martin GT3 around Las Vegas. And now we're finally at some good circuits. Circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. And we're in a good car as well. The BMW M2 GT2. Having said that, I don't have anything wrong with the Aston Martin GT3. Round 4 will kick off on the 4th of March. You've still got a fair, well, you've got about 2 weeks actually to get your times in for the BMW M2. Before we head over to the 911 GT1 car at Le Mans. And last but not least on the VRRC tour of what's going on, the Mirror League, of course, the rounds 1 to 12 mirroring certain occasions of the actual Formula 1 calendar in real life. 25-minute races, race 2 will be a full reverse grid as well. And then, of course, we're going to be going to Saudi Arabia all the way to Abu Dhabi on selected circuits. So please do get involved. For the VRRC community, it's going to be absolutely thrilling. We cannot wait for the Formula 1 season to start. We cannot wait for race 1 of the minis to start either. We'll be back after this quick advert.
Thanks to Camus. This is the Camus JCW Mini Cup powered by Phoenix Racing, and race 1 about to get underway here at Castle Combe. We have on pole position Nicky Taylor. Next to him, Elliot Dalton Ayres. Andy Carroll, who gave us our hot lap, is third on the grid. Joel Lask, the championship leader, on the outside of row 2. Row 3, Chris Blakey and John Higgins Jr. Lighting gantry appears on screen, so we are very nearly ready to race. Sequence underway. It's myself and Jack Oliphant calling the action here virtually at Castle Combe as the lights go out. Nicky Taylor gets away well. Elliot Dalton-Ayres makes a great start in the blue and white 71, but he's got the right-handed, predominantly right-handed circuit, of course, as they go into turn number 1. Is Nicky Taylor going to hang on to it? Is Elliot Dalton-Ayres going to come up? Taylor here could get squeezed on the outside. We've got a couple of cars off already, and Dalton-Ayres is going for it and has managed to get the lead. Taylor gets it all sideways, collects it up, but it's Dalton-Ayres leading, and a fair few cars going off, Jack, in the background.
Yeah, all Dalton-Ayres needed to do there was really not crash, because everybody else seemed pretty keen on it. I think a lot of people not actually warming their rear tyres up. That's made some problems going through turn 1, got a back end a little bit loose, and then you're just cascading into everybody else. As Andy Carroll is the latest driver to stage exit right by quite some distance. Actually, I think he's taking a trip over to Thruxton. He's hopefully get back on circuit all nice and quickly. But Andy Carroll is involved. Adam Lyall, unfortunately, who's back actually after what sounded like a very nasty injury, actually. So fair play for him to get back quite so quickly. But the upshot of it all, Richard, is that Elliot Dalton-Ayres is leading the way with Nicky Taylor in second position. Our pole sitter has been demoted by 1. Dalton-Ayres back in the championships with VRRC. We're delighted to see him back. And Nicky actually predicted that it's going to be a tough one with him involved as well, with championship leader Joel Lask hunting them down. They've gapped themselves quite substantially, Richard, which is a bit of a shame. We're hoping for a little bit of a closer action for longer into this race, but the 5 that we have are really very quick drivers.
Absolutely right. And I'll tell you what, I am literally rubbing my hands together at how this is going to develop. I usually do a metaphoric one, but it's a real one. This is going to develop... Sorry?
You need to turn the heater on, that's why.
I think you're probably right. There's plenty of hot air in it, but it's not warm enough. Yeah, this has worked out well with Elliot Dalton-Ayres getting in front. Not for Nicky Taylor's point of view, but for the viewers' idea that the pole man, who was pole from start to finish, pretty much unchallenged, now has got to chase and work out where he can make the pass. And when you look at that shot going into Bobby's, the chicane, and see just how much it slows down the original flow of this, it's an airfield circuit, of course. It was RAF Castle Combe prior to being turned into a circuit. And for those of you who don't know, it's generally the outer roads of the airfields that were used as the introduction to racing circuits going on back in the day. When you see, if you didn't have to do the chicane, it would be a very fast circuit. As now, it was a green machine going off in the background. It's all a bit physical, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Brad Smith, that's big talking point, because of course one of the championship contenders currently tied with second place. That's not going to be helping him at all. Here's Tom Churchhouse, a consistent runner in the top 3 last week. Actually came out as a top point scorer, I think, from Silverstone. Currently operating in 10th position. Not ideal for him, but we don't really know how many people that is representative of, or whether or not people ended up coming off, just as Nathan Smith does right in front of me as I'm talking about it, which is, in a way, Nathan Smith, Matt Smith. They're in similar looking cars. They're very similar numbers, and they have very similar first initials as well. It's very, very difficult to tell them apart, even with the initials on the left-hand side. Churchhouse looking for a little lunge on John Jones. We know John Jones doesn't get out of the way for anybody at any point of the circuit, so he's held on to that position for the time being with Lee Piercy, who I think qualified inside the top 10. Very, very close in operation just behind as well, hoping to recover a little bit ahead of the likes of Stu Henderson and try and catch up to the top end. Speaking of the top end, Richard, the top 2 are starting to go at it.
Yeah, Nicky Taylor's having a go. He's got very, very good momentum here. And so we wait for them to come into shot and takes the back end, and that sends him off and into the barrier. Sadly for him, he's out at Quarry Corner. Nicky Taylor will try and recover as best he can from that. Well, that to me, racing incident, I think.
Well, yeah, I was going to say Nicky was just all over the inside. I don't know, the camera cut away before we saw, well, actually too late, actually. I don't know if we saw him hit the curb on the left and that sort of pushed him into the car on the right. It looked like there was enough room, but sadly, obviously, yeah, they ended up having contact. And it is such a fast circuit, isn't it? We were comparing it to Thruxton earlier on, and you were saying that people are slightly potentially afraid of the circuit. That is one of the reasons why, actually, isn't it? Because when you go off, you really go off. Craig Curtis and John Higgins are the two drivers. Craig Curtis in the Max Coates looking car. Is that the Primex?
Yes, it is. It's the Hyro Motorsport, one of Max's. Max is supposed to give me the dirt on him, and he hasn't done yet. But he's done some dirt himself. He's gone off a little bit of a clash, sadly. So Craig Curtis, who's got up into that third position from 8th on the grid, you've got to be in it to win it. John Higgins is now from 6th on the grid up into a potential podium with Nicky Taylor now in 4th on his recovery.
It's difficult, isn't it, Richard? Because, of course, you're following someone for so long. You're in the slipstream. It's such a momentum circuit. You don't want to break unnecessarily, but equally, you know you can't be going side by side or even not even side by side with people, going within about 6 inches of them because you don't know how the cars are going to react. You don't know how they're going to hit the curbs and stuff like that because we don't race here very often. What do you do if you catch up to the back of them after one of the chicanes? Is Tom Churchhouse maybe trying to answer that question with Josh Martin?
Josh Martin's made some progress, hasn't he?
He has. Maybe he's just managed to find gaps through the carnage. Is Josh Martin? He's normally involved with the carnage, I'll be honest. He won't mind me saying that. But he's on the inside now with Churchhouse trying to find moves around the outside. And then one of the Smiths, that's Nathan Smith in the white and blue Mini, just behind him. There we go. They've caught up to the likes of John Jones, Craig Curtis. That battle that's assuming with Matt Smith, who's just got through. So the midfield battle is really the one to look for as Josh Martin tries to anchor his way through on John Jones. John Jones slams the door shut, driving right in the middle of the road. Here goes Smith on the inside of Martin. No, just about surviving.
They are. So they tick off another lap, exiting Camp Corner up across the line and then down towards turn 1 we go again. Gap is 2.8 seconds first to second. Joel last second, John Higgins third, Nicky Taylor in 4th. He's actually beginning to reel them in. So, and big contact there.
Yeah, no, that was massive, wasn't it? I think it was Chris Blake who initiated that. I think he just went straight on into everyone. Well, straight on into John Jones was the unlucky culprit, actually. The rest of them sort of survived it, but it was John Jones who ended up getting hit off. And then I think they've collected 1 or 2 other people. So, yeah, big shame there. Heisman has made his way up to 18th place as a consequence. Brad Smith, obviously, we mentioned how he went off. He's back up to 19th, not scoring any particular good points. But, again, every little helps, I suppose. You're only as good as your worst race sort of thing in terms of a championship standing. Josh Martin up to 8th. Like you mentioned earlier, he was running down in 21st position in qualifying. Not actually sure where he qualified in the end, but he's not doing too badly inside the top 10. I think it's just survival now, isn't it? People are starting to learn that this circuit is not to be questioned when it comes to racecraft. Just stay on the inside and hope you don't get hit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm kind of dreading the reverse grid start because it's going to be all action, isn't it? And people, I think, have got to realise that you have got to get through those first few corners and laps to make up some positions and just to stay on. Although Nicky Taylor might disagree with that because I say he's still in 4th place. But yeah, Josh Martin has done a very good job here. Damage limitation in between the Smith brothers at the moment as the Matt Smith tries to put off an outside move going into Bobby's. Doesn't quite work for him there, but he'll keep the pressure up.
Yeah, well, Smith, I think, is about to be questioned by Josh Martin. I think as they go down towards the last couple of corners, or down towards Tower anyway, it's going to be very, very quick on his heels. Here goes Josh Martin. Nope, not going to happen this time round. Nicky Taylor has caught up to the back of John Higgins. I can see on my little screen, my little track map, actually. So they're going towards the final corner now. Dalton Ayres is ahead of Lask by quite a fair few seconds, about 3 seconds. They're ahead of this battle with John Higgins and Nicky Taylor, probably by about roughly the same amount. And then you've obviously got 8 seconds back, actually, to the likes of Craig Curtis and Stu Henderson. So that battle that we were just watching, actually, is really far back in the background. Dalton Ayres just needs to put in some consistent laps in, and this race will be his. But Nicky Taylor, you mentioned on a recovery drive, Richard, he looks like he's hot on it.
He's done well, hasn't he? And the key thing for the mindset is he just wanted to get on with it. People talk about red mist or whatever, but he's just recovered from that absolutely superbly. And John Higgins Jr. now has got to do a little bit of a defensive drive, a little bit over the grass there for Nicky Taylor, but he writes that on the exit, draws side by side with Higgins. How's this one going to pan out? Higgins on the outside. Taylor's got the right line, perhaps on the inside. Gets his nose in front for position. Interestingly there, giving Higgins room as they go down into Bobby's, and he's got that position done. That was a very well executed manoeuvre from my book.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we just clip that 10 seconds and send that to everybody and say, this is how you're supposed to overtake around Castle Combe. Try not to do anything else, basically. That's the one position you can do it, because everybody else has failed somewhat, including Nicky Taylor himself. So nice to see that he's actually learning. Josh Martin has got past through Matt Smith.
He has, yeah. Josh Martin ahead of the Smith brothers now. But yeah, great driving from both Taylor and Higgins there, and particularly Taylor recovering to get up onto a podium. There is Martin. Behind them, the two Smiths having a little bit of...
Taylor's gone off.
Is that Taylor gone off again?
Yeah, I saw on the track map there was a little bit of bumping and barging between the two. I think maybe Higgins has nudged him off there, because when Taylor came back on the circuit, Higgins was letting him through, wasn't he? So I think there was a little bit of maybe a mistake from Higgins and let him go and then try the move again in a couple of laps' time. But yeah, it's very, very, very difficult to find any kind of move, it seems here, and this mid-pack is proving that.
And now how is Joel Lask? Is he going to be able to stay ahead of Nicky Taylor here, given the pace? He's 3 seconds down the road. Points, by the way, 25 for a win, 22 points for second place, 20 for third. Points running right the way down to 17th place. So at the moment, Johnny Ogden, the last of the point scorers, Dave Heisman would do well to make up a couple of places here and get into the points on his debut with us.
Yeah, but there's so many other drivers as well, isn't there, who are keen on that, who have been here for a couple of more weeks than him, and who are learning the VRRC way, learning the car a little bit quicker and everything, as well as we see people pushing the boat out on it. Lee Piercy, especially questioning the track limits on the outside there, waiting to see how much grass he can take before it sucks him over into the Armco. Not much more than he's trying is what I would probably, the advice I would give him. Churchhouse in 9th place. He's one of those drivers that's come to the championship and performed at a high standard quite quickly. So is Higgins, the likes of Piercy as well. I'm quite impressed with Piercy. Chris Blakey is a driver who was in the championships for quite some time. Here goes Churchhouse, though. I'll get back to him in a second, because Churchhouse around the outside of Smith, who takes a massive amount of curb on the inside. It's going to be Churchhouse's position now, I think, Richard.
Yeah, it looks like he's got it done. Churchhouse in the red car, Nathan Smith in the white machine with the blue wing mirrors. Cedes that place. Churchhouse now has got Josh Martin back in his sights. There he is, straight lining the chicane, and Josh up to 7th place now, chasing Craig Curtis. Carroll there in 10th place at the moment. Lee Piercy down behind him. So Piercy putting pressure on. He's going to go for a sweeper, maybe have a look around the outside, thinks better of that, goes for the racing line, tries to get the momentum on the way out, a little bit of a tap. So the contact is actually recorded as well. And I think there are penalties or weight penalties for too many taps in this as well.
Well, there's, yeah, I was going to say there's basically stewarding after the race. There's not live stewarding in race, but there is for after the event. And then they'll do a Monday briefing, basically, once sort of through all the incidents have been worked through, once people have lodged their complaints, and Rich has obviously found bits that he's seen that he wants to have a look at as well. Then they'll do a Monday briefing where he'll go through the incidents. People need to attend, and there may well be punishments handed out as well. If you don't attend, obviously you don't get a say in whether the punishment is handed out to you, basically. So, yeah, it's quite well run here at the VRRC. It's very strict in how they do things, and that tries to keep the racing standards up to the highest possible. John Jones is in the pits. So is, unfortunately, our youngest driver in the championship, Thomas Potter. Not entirely sure why he's 6 laps down. I don't think he even made the start line, Richard, which is a bit of a shame. The young 12-year-old.
He teleported.
Oh, did he?
Flash on screen, yeah. In the very early
stages.
Yeah, it is a pity. And great lad is T Potter, and thank you for the Teapot for getting hooked up with us on social media. And see, he was away karting in the real world as well, doing his various promotions at the weekend as well. Wish him well for race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, yeah, no, he's going to be a very, very fast driver in the future, especially, well, he was fast at Silverstone, to be fair. I'm not sure what he was like at Donington. Obviously here, he didn't really get a chance to show what he's about in qualifying. I think he was around that mid-pack, but as we mentioned before, it's a fairly intimidating circuit, isn't it? But when we go to the more common circuits later on in the championship, then we'll probably start seeing him towards the front end of the circuit as well. And I think he's got podiums in him, Richard, I really do.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case, and just be all click for him on the right day, and then he'll carry on doing it, which is how you build the momentum up. There's Josh Martin still in 7th, not quite close enough to Craig Curtis to get stuck in. Tom Churchhouse might be closing in behind him. Then Nathan Smith Andy Carroll is next up. 4 seconds the gap between Elliot Daltonair and Joel Lask, with Nicky Taylor another second or so. I think Taylor is closing up on Joel Lask, but whether he's going to have enough time, we've still got 10 minutes of racing to go here for our first one of the day. So Nicky Taylor doing a very good damage limitation here.
Well, I'm just having a look at his lap times. Actually, Joel Lask doesn't seem to be able to get into the 1 minute 10s that often at all, whereas Nicky Taylor is consistently doing it at the same pace of Elliot Daltonair. So Taylor and Daltonair's very, very similar indeed. The odd one out does seem to be Joel Lask, but Lask has the track position, doesn't he? And you asked many a racing driver over the years, Richard, haven't you, which one would you rather have? I reckon 90% of them would say track position.
They would, yeah, 100%. 100%. I think Nicky Taylor fastest lap as well. That, in terms of championship points, is another 3. So if Nicky Taylor gets second and fastest lap, that is 25. It's the same as a race win, isn't it? So Taylor will be looking to try and maintain that. Best lap at the moment, 1:10.474. Several other drivers in the 1:10s up at the sharp end. Tom Churchhouse is, I think, the lowest of the 1:10. We've got 1:10.6 as well by Zamfir Radu. So, oh no, beg your pardon, that's changed. That's moved. As
Andy
I was looking
Carroll,
at it. Andy Carroll, yeah. And,
yeah, he got 1 minute 10.6, but he's a little bit further down and struggling in 16th place, isn't he? Which is a shame because he qualified so well.
He did. Might wind up with a decent starting position for race 2 and make the most of that. There's not a system to be played with the reverse grids at all, I have to say. And this is the guy that at the moment is going to have to do all the big work in race 2. Elliot Dalton, there's well clear, 4.5 seconds, as you can see on the timing tower, and did a lot of hard work to get off the line and defend as well from Nicky Taylor, and he's had a little bit of a Billy No Mates race since that incident.
I think it'll be the way he wants it. He'll probably be sat there glad and thinking, well, I'm not going to have this in 20 minutes time, am I? So I might as well enjoy it while it lasts. I think you can have all the plans in the world going into race 2, and obviously we're going to ask the drivers about it in the interviews, I'm sure, but I think from what we've seen in this race, the answers are going to be exactly the same. It will be just survival, and it will be pot luck a little bit, because it's a narrow circuit for the most part, as Josh Martin and Tom Churchhouse are volunteering to show us just behind Craig Curtis. A little bit of pushing, a little bit of shoving. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly wrong with that, as Churchhouse did manage to get back onto the circuit nice and clean and actually carry the fight on as well. So I'm a fan of it. I'm not entirely sure the drivers are.
What is it, the old cliche? If you ain't rubbing, you ain't racing.
Oh, exactly. And a great accent put with it as well.
It should be a non-contact sport indeed. It's, as we're hearing in our ears from Race Inspector Rich Hayden, this is a good battle going on between these two, and so that any sort of contact momentum hasn't pinged either of these drivers off just yet. I hold my breath in case they do, as Martin looks for the inside, which converts to the outside now. They go side by side again, just cedes the place. Craig Curtis holds on, and this is bringing Tom Churchhouse into it as well. Tom looks to the inside, back to the racing line to garner momentum for the exit, maybe have a run at Josh Martin now. So red card chases green of Josh Martin, and this is, you can get real life races like this, perhaps not as much jockeying, but the fact that you get drivers, we were talking about this at the Fiesta Junior Scholarship, you can have drivers, you don't have to make a lunge, you can have a string of cars all matching each other, drivers matching each other, wheel for wheel, second for second, absolutely superbly. And no overtaking, but it might look boring, but it's actually everybody to the same very high standard. We haven't got that here, though, because we've got Martin making the move around the outside now. Is he going to be able to pull it off? This is very determined racing again. You can see the car that's being chased not pushing the car off to the outside run. Lovely overhead shot here. He's still there, but Martin makes that little mistake going in, and he's passed. So Churchhouse goes up. Now we've got Smith coming into the mix as well. So what was a 3-car battle, now 4th, with Nathan Smith on the back of them, trying to close in and get stuck in. But Josh Martin will be keen to recommence the climb up the order that we saw from him in the very early stages of this race, with 5:50 to go. Still Daltonair's leading. Lask in second place. Nicky Taylor is in third. And another 3 seconds down on Joel Lask. It looks settled, but now we've got Smith having a look. And poor old Josh Martin, from attacker, is now very much a defender in this one, with Smith putting the big pressure on him and looking very squirrely there.
Yeah, well, the relationship between friend and foe is a perilous one, and I think Craig Curtis was Josh Martin's biggest foe, and now he potentially could be his biggest friend because he needs to hold up some church house for him while he gets rid of Smith. As they go side by side to Church House and Craig Curtis. Looks like Church House has got a car maybe alongside him as they go down towards the chicane. Church House, remembering what happened to Josh Martin, decides not to try and go around the outside there. But Josh, again, going too deep, getting his apex and flow all wrong, and Nathan Smith ends up getting past him as well. It's been a pretty disastrous lap and a half for
Nathan. Yeah,
Josh Martin.
Nathan's done well there, hasn't he? And Josh Martin, he's actually perhaps mentally in a better position now because he hasn't got any immediate pressure from behind, so he can make his focus on trying to get one of these positions back and maybe start to try and get a little bit of a climb as we look back. So Craig Curtis in the high row car, and I do hope I hope Max Coates gets to watch one of these and ping me some notes about the high row boys. He's been very busy the last couple of weeks with the Dragon Sport Scholarship, amongst other things, and I think had some trials and tribulations getting home from that at Brighton to his home base. But actually, no, it was Brands Hatch, wasn't it? The Dragon Sport final shootout that he was on his way back from. But he'll be pleased to see that high row car up there. And Craig Curtis in 6th position, 2 places to the good of his starting position. Josh Martin now back ahead of Church House and Smith, so has done a little bit of a recovery. We're almost back where we were a couple of laps ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. Nicky Taylor has actually got himself within 2 seconds of Joel Lask as well. I think time's going to run out before he's going to have an opportunity to make any kind of lunges or anything, but it's still a good drive by Taylor. He's putting in lots of qualifying laps, basically, to try and catch up. The problem is, the better he does here, the harder it's going to be when it comes to the reverse grid. But actually, I'd rather be right at the back, Richard, than anywhere near the middle. It looks a bit chaotic, doesn't it? Josh Martin has managed to somehow get past Tom Church House and Nathan Smith through all of that. I think there was a little bit of contact maybe for Church House on a couple of drivers, and Craig Curtis still leads this battle. Whether or not he's doing it with a little bit too much brute force and elbow grease either side of his spring mirrors is yet to be seen, but he is defending that position. He wants that 6th place. I wonder what's going to happen if he gets an opportunity to catch up to Stu Henderson, who is probably looking in his rearview mirrors and thanking the Lord that they're falling over each other. Oh, Church House gets attacked by Smith. That's massive.
How was he held on to him? Wait for them to come back in shot. They're all still on, so some good saves. I was about to say that Stu Henderson is sort of marking himself out here potentially, and I say potentially, for driver of the day, because this is going to be by far his best fit, if he stays there, his best finish in the series so far. Remember, he started off the front in the reverse grid race at Donington Park. But here, this is fastest off the front race, and he's in 5th position. And he's the yellow car ahead of Josh Martin in green. So Henderson not under any big pressure. He's not going to challenge John Higgins for sure in the closing stages of this one. But this is looking like a very good race for Stu Henderson at the moment.
It's amazing, isn't it? The gap actually from Higgins over to Henderson is 17.5 seconds, which just goes to show how almost bordering on easy the front lot have had it, and they just put in their lap times. But Nicky Taylor, as I was literally about to say, has caught up to the back of Joel Lask. It's as if Rich is actually watching the race at the same time, isn't it? And he can put the cameras to whoever he wants. But it's Nicky Taylor within a second now, Richard, of Joel Lask. 1.5 minutes to go, about 93 seconds. Ooh, no, that's just jumped out. No, it hasn't. About 92 seconds to go before the end of the, well, the time permitted, obviously, and then one more final lap. So can Nicky Taylor do it? Is there going to be an opportunity? If anybody's going to try, it's going to be him. But if I was him, or if I was his advisor or his dad, I'd probably be sticking my head through his bedroom door and going, maybe just take 3rd place. There's no point risking the crash now.
I agree with you, but races are races, aren't they? And you know they tend to want to go for it. But you know, it's some very serious prizes in this competition, courtesy of Camus and Phoenix Racing. So he might be advised just to bag the points for now, see what he can do in race 2. He knows he can come through. He knows drivers can come through, given that the doors will open, and plenty of other rounds for him to do. But 45 seconds remaining on the clock. It's the gap's gone. He's there. He's in with a shout now of maybe moving up. And I didn't think he was going to get on the podium after that moment with Elliot Dalton Ayres earlier on, but he's driven absolutely superbly to get back on terms. and I think he's going to go for it.
He's the only driver that's operating in the 1 minute 10s at the moment. Even Dalton Ayres has dropped out of that one. Lask is pushing, you can tell, because he's doing 1 minute 11.2, which is faster than most people are doing. But it's not going to be fast enough because Taylor is right onto that gearbox, isn't he now, of Joel Lask. With 8 seconds left to go, where are they? Are they just about? I think the checkered flag is going to come one lap too early for Nicky Taylor as the timer ticks down to 0. No. Elliot Dalton has got to cross the line before the timer ticked down, so no checkered flag yet. Joel Lask will be screaming in his cockpit, thinking, you've got a 5-second lead, Elliot. Can't you just let me have this one?
And here he goes now. He's having a look. So into the left-hand kink, has a look on the inside. The next corner's going to be the outside for him. So he tucks back in, gets a nice wide run there, and will carry his corner speed and perhaps a little bit of extra momentum to try and have a little pop down the inside. He has a look. He's a little bit too far back at the moment. As they head down towards the S's, they both run off across the grass, and it's Dalton Ayres still out front. And we're very much focused on this battle for second. Lask from Taylor, John Higgins in 4th, Tom Churchhouse is in 5th, Stu Henderson now down to 6th from Craig Curtis. So, yeah, all go on the last lap. Last few corners, and let's hand back to Jack.
Yeah, it's, well, Joel Lask, top of the championship, but there's only 4 points, really, that Nicky Taylor, or 8 points that Nicky Taylor needs to catch up to him. Elliot Dalton Ayres, newcomer to the mini championship, but not newcomer to VRRC. This doesn't take anybody by surprise to see him take the win here at Castle Combe. Nicky Taylor against Joel Lask is going to be settled, with Lask taking that second place. Nicky Taylor rounding out the podium as John Higgins is in 4th. Tom Churchhouse has managed to get himself into 5th. Where on earth is Stu Henderson, is what everybody is asking. And, well, when I say everybody, me. Stuart Henderson is all the way down in 14th position. I don't know. He must have had some kind of incident. I'll be interested to see in the chat if he puts anything on. Please, in the YouTube chat, if you do know what happened to him, let us know. But Churchhouse has managed to get free the likes of Josh Martin, Craig Curtis, and Nathan Smith, who's dropped down to 10th position. So the top 10 is Elliot Dalton Ayres, Joel Lask, Nicky Taylor, John Higgins, Tom Churchhouse, Craig Curtis, Josh Martin, Lee Piercy in 8th, 9th, Adam Lyall, a driver who I don't think we mentioned once actually during that whole race. And Nathan Smith ended up being in the top 10. So I tell you what, Richard, there are stories up and down the field there. We're going to hear from our top 3 in a quick interview after this very short break.
Thanks to Evnia, and we can go down onto our virtual podium. I'm not sure which way the guys did it last week, because I missed the podium interviews, but I'm going to go back to me 3-2-1, which means, first of all, I'm going to talk to Nicky Taylor. So a little bit of deja vu, Nicky. We spoke after pole position. Talk us through that little incident with Elliot.
Oh, I don't know, really. I kind of, I went round the outside, round the outside for the left-hand, or technically down the inside for the left-hander. And Elliot was squeezing me quite a lot, but I don't think there's anything like bad with it. It was just a fair squeeze, and where I braked, I think I clipped grass and curb, and the car just pinged left and then went into the wall and gave me red bumper. But yeah, I just got my head down and then just tried to consistently put in good laps, and it seemed the pace was still there. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, the squeeze was the worst bit, but the the joy for us was watching the fight back, you know, coming through, and a bit of a ding-dong with John Higgins, and you know, you cleared him and then caught Joel in the closing stages. So you know, really good stuff from you. And what are you thinking about? Was it worth the risk in the closing stages, or were you thinking championship points and prizes?
I was trying to get past Joel, but he defended brilliantly, and I was also very scared going into the same corner to not do the same thing again. So yeah, I was trying my hardest to go for it, but yeah, he just had it covered and done well. And then John, I think this is breaking point a tad bit into the corner and just bumped me wide, but he let me straight back through, so there was no harm there.
That was cool to see, wasn't it? Nice bit of driving. There was some really good bits of driving actually from you know, various fellows in that one. So very well done. And you've got to do a lot of work from the back. I'm going to move on time-wise, Nikki. So again, thanks for having the chat with us and well done. Good luck for race 2. If we've got Jack back, I'll get Jack to introduce Joel. Jack, are you back?
I am indeed, yes, and we've got Joel Lask, hopefully, alongside me in this interview virtual booth. Anyway, Joel, congratulations on the 2nd place. Have you just about finished sweating, or are you still on?
Just a tad. Yeah, that ballast is not the one. My tyres were shot from about 8 minutes left to go again, and yeah, we're just dropping off consistently from there. I see Nicky coming, and it was just hold him off as much as possible.
That degradation is going to be massive, isn't it, with the weight? Because you put in so much force through the left-hand side on this sort of very fast track. Is this a track you knew you were going to be struggling at before the championship even started? Because you've got a lot of, not just success ballast, but of course performance ballast as well.
To be fair, in practice, it was actually pretty quick. I haven't managed to get the times yet in quali or in the race, but yeah, as soon as you add that race fuel in as well, it's game over. The car just does not want to do what you want it to do, so it's sort of just hold on for dear life.
2nd place, though, is nothing to be sniffed at, is it? You must be fairly pleased up until the point where you lined up on the grid for race number 2. What was your thought process with that? Because you were probably seeing it in your rearview mirrors a little bit, weren't you? The chaos that ensued.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen, but it's the thing, it's just points right now. That's all that matters. Just keep out the way, let everyone do their bit, and then just try and pick people off one by one if I can. But yeah, no silly moves from me this time.
Yeah, well, look, Joel, I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to watching how not only you, but most of the top 10 progress through, and hopefully you all survive as well, because it's going to be quite chaotic. And well, Nicky learned his lesson, maybe not taking certain corners and trying to go around the outside of people. I look forward to seeing whether you guys follow his trend and actually learn upon your mistakes. Looking forward to it, Joel.
See what happens. Nice one. Cheers, mate.
Well done, Joel, and thanks to Jack Oliphant for that one. Let's go to the top step of our virtual podium, and congratulations to our winner, Elliot Dalton. Ayres, well done, fella. Good race.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously the little incident with Nicky, but other than that, it was a pretty, I was going to say pretty chilled race, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get away, but you had to work hard, didn't you, off the start to get in, and you guys were giving each other room for the first few corners. Very tight to see, but yeah, so maybe chilled after that, but you still put the lap times in, and you know, Nicky did a pretty good comeback on the others. What are your thoughts on? Well, first of all, I wanted to say, you know, obviously, welcome into the series, and what brought you in? Did you have a look at the first couple of rounds and think, yeah, I fancy a bit of that?
No, I was going to do it before, but then just couldn't find the time. I was going to focus on my GCSEs, but then yeah, just kind of thought against it. So we've rejoined this championship. So now I'm back for the rest of it.
Okay, and was it sort of GCSEs out the window now?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think the right thing to do is get the balance right. You know, a little bit of racing. You know, you get a lot of youngsters who take a year off for GCSEs. Have a bit of faith, have a bit of racing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on? I mean, that was a fairly chaotic first lap behind you, and we've got the same again potentially with the reverse grid race. How do you see that? Obviously, with the race win and you starting right in the mix with everybody.
I mean, I've got nothing to lose, so I'm just gonna go, you know, hell for leather. Just try and make up as many places as possible. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's to say the least.
We'll be keeping an eye out for the 71 cars flying through the field for sure. Elliot, well done on that win. Lovely to talk to you, and we'll see what you can do for race 2, and I hope that we get to commentate on you in future rounds of the championship as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's our top 3. We're looking forward to race 2 of event 3 of the Camas JCW Mini Cup powered by Phoenix Racing. on the Castle Combe circuit. The cars are on the grid already. I think if I'm looking at my timing screen correctly, we've got Sam Milner and Sam Walton on the front row of the grid. Indeed, we have the 43 car, and with Sam Walton in black alongside row 2, Simon Thorpe with the Union flag atop of the car, and Kenny Press next to him. Then on row 3, we've got Brad Smith. This is when it's gone a little bit out of kilter with my what I'd written down earlier on. So Brad, you can see in the green car on the outside. And I'm going to defer here to Jack. Who's your money on for a quick start here?
Oh, that's always difficult. I remember Andy throwing me under the bus quite a lot in the touring cars, but my always get out of jail free was, oh, it'll be the rear wheel drives. But obviously I don't have that excuse here. So I reckon, well, Brad Smith has to turn good at some point for this championship to go his way. I think he'll be quite keen to try and do it, but again, it's the case of he's starting in that 5th position, right in the front of where all the action is going to take place, shall we say. So that's going to be really difficult. I think the likes of Tom Churchhouse and Josh Martin also have a problem right in the middle of it. I wouldn't be surprised, Richard, if we see the likes of Thomas Potter and obviously our front runners for the first race, Elliot Dalton-Aird and the likes, really just sort of wait big time at the back, just pootle around, maybe even let everybody else get a good 3 or 4 or 5 second head start, and then just see the chaos. Okay, if there's no chaos, you've lost out, but you're going to be quick enough to try and get through anyway, and everybody starts falling over each other in these races, and it's a bit more chaotic in the sim world than it is the real life world, because we don't see many full reverse grids, do we, in the real life racing anymore, because a lot of people say it just costs too much money when they crash.
That is a reason, isn't it? I'm going to apologise to Kenny Press and Simon Thorpe for getting them the wrong way around. Kenny is the black car, and Simon Thorpe in the yellow. So hopefully sorted that one out. Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm still a huge advocate of reverse grid racing, and working towards, I hope at some point, starting a championship of my own in the real world, which will have reverse grids all the time. That will be fun, won't it?
What kind of car would you stick on that though, Richard?
I don't really want to say what it is at the minute, but
okay,
it will be, obviously it will be a full-time job for a clerk.
Yes, I was going to say, you're ordering chaos out there then all of a sudden. Like, Brands Hatch Indy, everybody's flying about the place.
And yeah, I will be talking to people about getting involved in that, and yeah, just something I quite fancy doing. Well, I don't want to be a commentator forever, so it'd be nice to run something, and you know, just finding the right car, which I think we're there with. But anyway, this isn't about that. This is about our JCW Mini Cup. So the reverse grid race and a chance for people. I was just having a quick look down the grid, and we've got Andy Carroll and Stu Henderson both nearer to the front as well, with those kind of mid-grid finishes that we had. Getting another decent race here, and I welcome your when we're off air input into driver of the day when we've got our advert maybe after race 2. Because I've clean forgot it last time, didn't I? My first one, so I've got to try and remember to do that.
It's all right. Andy always forgets it as well. Don't worry.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's rubbish. So.
Well, it's easy done because you get sort of sucked into the whole thing of what's going on. I've got to say, not a very big crowd on the banks today here at Castle Combe, is there? You do some simulated crowds, but they obviously heard that Chris wasn't here. But 1 minute to go before the start of the race. But yeah, we've got so Elliot Dalton-Aird's lining up 20 finishers in the first start. So Elliot's got Dave Heasman behind him. So the great thing about the non-finishers is that they maybe get the chance to have a look at some of the faster drivers and what they're doing. So you might be able to tow around with them or follow them in the first couple of laps. Obviously for Dave Heasman, that's going to be quite a big thing, joining the championship, and maybe getting an eye on, you know, somebody with a little bit more experience in that. But I don't know who's going to come through this, but it is going to be about the bun fight on the first lap as they head down into Quarry Corner for the first time. This is a more of a flowing first set of corners than many tracks, but equally can provide, you know, more entertainment than you get the likes of going into Clervaux at Croft. Anyway, we'll see what happens. We've got the lighting gantry prepared and ready, sequence underway, and we look for Sam Milner and Sam Walton on the front row of the grid to get underway as the lights go out. Brad Smith making a little bit of a move. We've lost Stuart Vickers side by side for the race lead, and it's Sam Oulton who gets the run around the outside. Brad Smith coming through in green. Thankfully, nice bright colour for me to pick out up into P2. We've got a spinner there in Nathan Smith who loses out big time early doors as Brad Smith challenges into Quarry for the race lead. He's going to pop it down the inside in the 69. The hottest guy in the minis is in second place, and cars going every which way behind him. One of the high road cars has gone, and this is what we predicted.
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody's bingo cards are coming up trumps, aren't they? Because everybody's getting hit, and including a teal car in the background that actually went airborne there momentarily. It has resulted in Walton being in first place. Brad Smith, I pulled him out of a hat, to be honest. I mentioned quite a few names, but Brad Smith is up to second place. Radu in third. Milner's dropped down to fourth. Kenny Press, Josh Martin, although having a lot of contact, actually being sideswiped quite substantially as we saw him come out of the first corner. He is still in seventh place. Elliot Dalton-Ayres, race winner, started in 20th place inside the top 10. It's quite astonishing, really. There may well be a change for the race lead as Brad Smith tries to keep his championship alive and takes the race lead ahead of Sam Walton. Even though Brad Smith may not have the overall pace, you would expect him to probably be quicker than those cars that were around him at the start of this one. So the 69 is in the lead, and he's going very defensive with it as well by the looks of it, trying not to allow Walton to get any kind of slipstream. Nice and late on the brakes. Walton is all up his back bumper. He just needs a couple of corners to get free, does Brad Smith, and maybe the likes of Andy Carroll to try and give him a hand as well, because Carroll, from 9th place on the grid, is up to 3rd.
He has, yeah, ahead of Zamfir. Radu's had a good couple of opening laps. Off goes to number 6, Sam Walton. So Sam having a problem. So Brad Smith now has got the opportunity. He's got some air, hasn't he, really, to get clear of Andy Carroll in second position. Zamfir Radu in third. So this is playing out well for Brad Smith, and exactly the opportunity he needed on a partial reverse, being in the front 3 rows, getting through the first couple of corners pretty cleanly, I have to say, as well, and then a nice clean pass to get into the lead and perhaps away down the road. Elliot Dalton-Ayres, well, he said he was going to send it, didn't he? School of Send up into now 6th position and chasing Josh Martin. There is Josh. So Josh chasing Sam Milner at the moment. Dalton-Ayres in the light blue car with the white roof chasing them down as well. Josh Martin looks to the outside, lightest of touches perhaps there. Gains more momentum, and I think he's going to get the place. So Martin up into 4th.
Yeah, Martin's done well there, hasn't he? And to be fair, so has Dalton-Ayres. As you said, the School of Send, he's looking elsewhere. Stuart Henderson and Nicky Taylor have made contact. Nicky Taylor, I think, is potentially facing the wrong direction. Stuart Henderson certainly is. That looks like a big chaotic mess for the likes of the championship contender and race 1 podium sitter, Nicky Taylor. We said about how his recovery drive from 5th position is going to have to be pretty special. Well, he's going to have to do it from all the way down in 20th now. And Sam Milner tries to chase up to Kenny Press, but Sam Walton, who was obviously leading at one point during this race, overtakes him to take 7th place. And then Simon Thorpe, Tom Churchhouse, and Joel Lask were all the following and waiting to go through.
I was just thinking about Nicky Taylor. You know, what he did in race 2 could be a simile for his season, you know, because if he's getting bad scores, I mean, he could come back from what's just happened here, but season-wise, he can come back from that and chip away. And if anyone can do that, it is the mindset of Nicky Taylor to come through. But Nicky's away down at the moment. Maybe come back to him a little bit later on. Brad Smith, the leader from Adam Carroll, 2.2 seconds. Zamfir Radu's having a good one here, isn't he? In 3rd place at the moment. Josh Martin trying to close down on him as we watch Sam Milner ahead of Tom Churchhouse. And there is the 43 of Sam Milner. So working hard, and Churchhouse is going to try and pop through on the inside. There they go. Very physical stuff in these opening laps. Where did Lyall go? So Lyall from front run of race 112th in this one at the moment. Nathan Smith down in 15th. Johnny Ogden ahead of them. The Flying Teapot is up to 18th place. So Thomas Potter, the 12-year-old, I think still 12, is making his way through and picking up some steady points. So Smith, Carroll, Radu and Martin at the moment are the top 4. There is the Flying Teapot, Thomas Potter, on his own at the moment, but no doubt enjoying his racing nonetheless.
Yeah, well, Nicky Taylor's gone from 20th up to 17th ahead of Potter, and it looks like he's going to try and overtake Higgins, which obviously is a headache he had to experience in race 1 as well. So there is Higgins, there is Taylor, just ahead of Thomas Potter, and it looks like Taylor's going to be on the outside. This is all went Pete Song before. Is he going to try and hit that curb again? This is a bit squeaky bum time. Nicky Taylor actually gets the move done, and Jog Higgins, I think, to be fair, let him have that one a little bit easier than Elliot Dalton-Ayres in a while ago. Speaking of Elliot Dalton-Ayres, you sounded like you could be his GCSE English teacher there, Richard, I'll be honest, of throwing out similes and metaphors and all sorts of things. Foreshadowing, it's all about old mice and men.
He's learning, isn't he, from racing? It's work-related learning racing. I always maintain that.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. You got to try whatever sinks in, whatever makes him remember it in the exam come June. I'm sure he'll be quite happy. But I have to say that in the School of Racing, Nicky Taylor is doing a damn good job, isn't he? But John Higgins has not let this one die.
No, John isn't. I was trying to remember whether senior Higgins had raced a green and white car, slightly different shade of green. I think the U Pullet Ford, if I remember correctly. It'll be interesting to see whether John Jr.'s got his own choice of livery when he gets a moment to actually design one, whether he'd use his dad's Stars and Stripes livery. But there was a green Stars and Stripes one he did with U Pullet, which I think he won the championship that year as well. John will be writing to me on Facebook, no doubt, to put me straight on that. But yeah, not giving up the fight here with Nicky Taylor. And Taylor, as a result, actually not really at the minute getting closer to Nathan Smith, who's up front. There is Nathan, white and blue car. And John Higgins giving him a little bit of a workout here, which is good to see. Maybe we're seeing Nicky just starting to break the toe a little bit. Top spot's behind them, and it all goes pear-shaped up front.
Yeah, no, I thought that was going to be a lot bigger disaster than it actually was from Johnny Ogden. I think that is that's Walton as well, actually, isn't it? Because it looked like the car was going to be parked on the apex of the chicane, which is just that's always going to go wrong, isn't it? Well, I'm not entirely sure what. I think that was Lyall. I don't really know what he was expecting to come of that, but it is what it is. We'll leave it to the stewards to decide later on. But everywhere you look, there is action aplenty, isn't there? Elliot Dalton-Ayres, where is that man? He's up to 3rd place now with Andy Carroll and Brad Smith. Now, I thought Andy Carroll was almost more contact. I'm trying to get a sentence out, Richard, and they keep crashing in front of me. It's very rude. But Andy Carroll, I thought he was going to catch up to the likes of Brad Smith, overtake him, and disappear into the distance. Now, that could still happen, to be fair, but Dalton-Ayres and Josh Martin have now... Well, sorry, Dalton-Ayres now just got through on Josh Martin. There's less than 6 seconds between Dalton-Ayres and Andy Carroll, and there's 17 minutes to go. Is that beyond the realms of possibility? We'll only wait and see.
Dalton-Ayres, we predicted he was going to do this, didn't he? And he's done it. And that's a phenomenal performance, getting through from 20th on the grid up onto a podium and, you know, proving that race 1 was no fluke. But Josh Martin, now look at him. He's using some lines here to try and get quick exits and stay on board with Dalton-Ayres in 3rd place. But big gap back to Andy Carroll at the moment in 2nd. 1.3, the gap sort of seesawing a little bit between Brad Smith out front and Andy Carroll in 2nd position. There's Joel Lask who's coming through in the number 7 car, 2nd in race number 1. Good points here, good steady racing from Joel Lask. Probably be able to get a little bit further up. Kenny Press is going to be his next target. But this is probably what it's all about. The championship leader getting up into the top 10, then continue. And pretty much as you said, Jack, at the start, maybe let the sort out happen in the opening laps and then chip away and get place after place and gradually climb up those points.
We've mentioned it many a time, me and Andy, that the championship really is won on the reverse grids, isn't it? And you've probably seen it plenty in real life, Richard. If you can't get through the reverse grid and survive, what's the good in winning race 1? You know, you're gonna get 25 points for winning race 1 and 0 for race 2. You end up with the night with 25 points. You might as well have come 10th twice. It's not going to win you a championship. So you need to be able to bank those reverse grids. And sometimes it's taken out of your hands. Sometimes you get caught in a 4-car pileup. You can't help it. But yeah, a lot of the time you really do need to think smarter, not harder, when it comes to scoring these points in these reverse grids. Because ultimately, as I said, they're the ones that count.
Here we go. Our race director just, I think, maybe thinking there was going to be a little bit of contact between those 4. It all actually plays out relatively peacefully at the moment. So Nathan Smith at the head of this group, a fair way to catch up with Joel Lask, who's really sort of pulling away at the moment. But Taylor now inside the top 10. The second of these cars has, again, fought back from adversity here, and he's going to get some decent points. But he does need to deal with Nathan Smith here, so let's see where he can make the
Taylor's
pass.
had another issue.
You think he
Not
has?
Taylor. Sorry, the timing. Sorry, my apologies, Richard. The timing tower was having a bit of a mare there, and I had a panic.
Right.
Sorry about that.
There he comes now, looking up the inside as they go into the S's. Can't quite do it. Nathan Smith is holding on. All good, clean fun between this pair at the moment. So round Old Paddock Bend, which is where I came out with one of my most unfortunate, not line of commentary, but one of my most unfortunate comments in the past, which I won't come out with now, but I'll tell you offline. And then they go onto the far side of the circuit now into Bobby's, and there's a little bit of a touch there, and that was enough. Nicky Taylor manages to finally make it through as Lee Piercy now gets stuck in. So when I first saw this, I misread it, thought it was Lee Pierce, the 23 driver, number 23, the stock car champion who races in the JCW Challenge, but it's Piercy, but it must be something about that name or sound alike with racing with minis.
Well, yeah, they clearly are both pretty good at it, obviously.
They are.
I would say... there we go. So Lee Piercy running in the BMW Championship that so many of our drivers have started coming from recently, which is quite nice to see the community come together. I think that might be forcing the hand of Rich when it comes to picking the next championship, potentially. But it is a really good sort of race, I have to say. I was about to say with Lee Piercy involved with Nathan Smith, but Lee Piercy then... Lee Piercy ends up throwing it off the circuit. When it comes to driver of the round, Richard, I know we'll discuss it offline in the Discord chat, but it is hard to see past Nicky Taylor, isn't it? I'll be honest, because he's had that recovery drive in race 1. He's having another recovery drive from 20th place all the way up to 8th. And then, for instance, that move there on Nathan Smith, I thought was a very, very clean, decisive move. A little bit of contact, but I think that was more Nathan Smith turning into him without realising he's going to be there than anything else. So it's been very impressive from himself, and the pole position, of course.
Yeah, he's had a very good run, hasn't he? In both of the races, just hasn't been able to convert those poles into wins thus far. So just having a look, Brad Smith, 6th different winner coming up as well in the series potentially if he can stay ahead. But again, might be a little bit too soon, because we have got Andy Carroll giving him a little bit of, well, a lot of a workout, actually. It's not a little bit of a workout, it's a lot of a workout. So let's see whether our flying lap guide can have a go here. It looks to the outside again. Going to try and hook up some exit speed. Runs a little bit wide there, a little bit of a mistake. Good speed into Bobby's once again. And Brad Smith lives to fight another day for the moment, or another corner. He's got 11 minutes 55 of this workout to carry on.
Yeah, but I would say from Cowell's perspective, the longer this goes on, it's Dalton Ayres getting closer and closer, and
yeah,
all of a sudden, it's taken a big chunk of time out of him just on this lap alone after fighting with Brad Smith for all of 2 corners. So Carroll needs to get this done. He doesn't have 11 and a half minutes to get the move done. He's probably only got about a lap and a half, really, before he can kiss that opportunity and an easy win goodbye. He should have got caught up to Brad Smith earlier in the race, in my opinion. He's not been going particularly quickly. All of a sudden, he's sort of turned it on, and he's able to put the lap times in. But Dalton Ayres, we know how quick he is. We know how much he doesn't care either anymore. He told us that in the interview earlier. So if he catches up to him, he's going to try and get past you no matter which way. So, Carroll needs to get this done ASAP.
Yeah, absolutely right. They're only going to slow each other up, aren't they? And see that gap diminish as they carry on. And when you look at the clock with just under 11 minutes to go, there's plenty of time for that third place car to come into the mix. Josh Martin not that far away either, still in 4th position, and he's becoming Mr. 4th place, isn't he? Because he had 3 of them in the first 4 races of the championship. He won't want that, and it's definitely not what you want. It's consistent. But I remember saying that to Pete Smith, who actually lived near Castle Combe, the late Legends driver, and he was always on the podium. And I said, "You're a consistent podium runner." He said, "That's like saying I always lose." But he didn't like, and I get where he was coming from. But he was quick and he was fast, and he did win many a race on his day as well. But this is the battle for the lead. Brad Smith still there, holding on well, got into a good early lead, but that's been negated. I'll tell you what, he's actually fending off pretty well at the moment. But Dalton Ayres is not going to take any prisoners once he catches up with his battle, and it seems to be a matter of time, doesn't it? Dalton Ayres best lap 1:10.6. Andy Carroll, best lap 1:10.7. And Brad Smith 1:11, his best lap. So it's all coming on again now as Carroll gets right into the rear end again, has a look on the outside, a little bit of a tap between the two, off on the grass again, not for the want of trying. Can't quite do it as they go into Bobby's, and you look, that light blue car in third place is getting ever closer, but we're down to 9.5 minutes left now. Brad Smith having to go defensive. You can see the racing lines that he's putting on some of the corners, maybe placing the car off the actual racing line and just trying to get a little bit defensive, but holding off Carroll really well at the moment as we go on board with Carroll. This is the view. He's going to draw level. Is he going to be able to use the next kink to grab the inside line? He's got his nose in front. He's got the lead, surely, or has he? Because then it's all about the turn in into that first major corner quarry, still side by side. And Smith is going to lose out, or is he? They're heading now down in towards the S's. And finally, Carroll goes through into the lead.
Carroll was going for that apex, whether he was going to get hit or not, wasn't he? It was a decider. Basically, put your car in a position. If you hit me, that's on you, basically. And Carroll with an excellent move there. Well done to him. Smith tried his best, but look how much Dalton Ayres has closed in on them now by about a second, maybe a second and a half, just while that move was being pulled off, which is astounding, really, isn't it? So we could end up seeing a four-way, or I reckon it's more likely to be a three-way battle for second place than it will be a four-way battle for the lead. But with 8 minutes to go, if Dalton Ayres gets past Brad Smith, we could then end up seeing Andy Carroll being reined in somewhat. And you're right, Josh Martin has done a good job this race in fourth place. Like you say, it's a bit difficult to always be the runner who's not quite on the top step. But the biggest reason why Josh Martin will be annoyed that he's coming fourth and not on the podium is because he doesn't get to come in and speak to us, Richard. Because I know that's all. Josh Martin's only here for the limelight. That's all he cares about. But no, I'm kidding. Obviously, Josh has got a good enough sense of personality and sense of humour to know that we are really good. But he will be very desperate to try and get on that podium regardless, because it has been a while since we have seen Josh that high up, and after that mistake through the first chicane, it's going to be a little bit longer potentially if he keeps that up.
I think the interview I did with him 3.5 years ago might still be on YouTube if anyone cares to have a look, see what he looked like 3 years ago.
Well, he's been keen to dress up for us. We used to put Zoom calls on and have a picture-in-picture on the screen of what people were doing in their sims. And whenever we cut to Josh Martin, he made a concerted effort to be dressed up in some regard. It was fantastic. It was very entertaining indeed. But yeah, we even had a co-driver. He had Dave from the YouTube chat that basically just on the YouTube chat rips into him for 2 hours. It's hilarious. So it's yeah, Josh Martin. He's a good guy. He needs to get back on that podium at some point.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him there. So Andy Carroll away and in the lead of building such as he needs to do. But we're going to focus now on the fourth and third place cars closing in on the second place machine of Brad Smith, who's really done a bit of damage limitation exercise here today himself with P2 at the moment. Well, it'd be good if we get a podium interview with him. It could still happen that we'll get a Josh Martin podium interview because he is not far away, but now it is closing up, and Elliot Dalton Ayres is, you can see, smelling blood now for second position, closing right up. 6 minutes still to go on the clock. When and where is he going to be able to make the move? He's almost on the rear of that second place car. Carroll, meanwhile, will see the battle developing behind him, and I think the move's going to come within the next 4.
Oh, hello. Yes, I think there is potentially a little bit of a connection issue. I think for me anyway. I don't know if anybody else experienced it, but Elliot Dalton Ayres did manage to get through onto through Brad Smith a lot quicker than Andy Carroll did. It has to be said actually as well. So the new podium looks like Andy Carroll in the lead, Elliot Dalton Ayres in second place, Brad Smith locking up behind him, and Josh Martin ready to try and sweep up any scraps that get left his way.
Yeah, Josh wants that podium interview, doesn't he? And, you know, it'll be great whoever we end up talking to, but it would also be nice to catch up with Josh again as he exits the chicane, still chasing hard. Of course, all the time he's behind Brad Smith, he's losing out to Elliot Dalton-Ayres, who's now got to set about chasing Andy Carroll, and there's still 5 minutes on the clock. This is doable. So too is third position for Martin, who pops down the inside. A little bit of contact between the two cars, and Martin makes that robust move. I don't like the word robust, but I used it anyway. Move through into third place.
Yeah, I quite often use the word ambitious when we're describing those sorts of
It's a
moves.
good one. Yeah.
Because it was ambitious, let's face it, that he was going to go. He wasn't even alongside, he wasn't anywhere near him, to be honest. And he thought, yeah, there's a gap there. I'll go for the last of the late breakers. Not entirely sure he pulled it off completely. I don't know. Well, we'll leave it to the stewards afterwards if Brad Smith decides to have a complaint about it. But ultimately, Martin saw an opportunity and he tried it. So he's up to third place now with Brad Smith, who's still fourth place. Is not the end of the world, is it, Richard, in terms of a championship fight? But especially is the fact that the three drivers ahead of him are all not championship contenders. You've got Joel Lask in 6th place, Nicky Taylor in 7th, Brad Smith, there's a Tom Churchhouse in between. So the championship contenders have come quite far to the front on this race too, but they're not quite ahead onto that podium position. So Brad Smith can probably breathe quite easily right now. If it's 4 minutes and he finishes in 4th, I'm sure he'll be happy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And all the drivers will go away asking questions about the next round, won't they? And trying to get back into the front of the proceedings. So Dalton-Ayres 1.6 seconds down at the moment. And Brad Smith here is kind of getting a second wind. He's not being dropped by Josh Martin and may well be able to get back in. So the dark green heading lighter green at the moment, and a fascinating battle for this last podium position. And see how this all works out. Job to know where to look, isn't it? Churchhouse 5th, John Lask 6th, Nicky Taylor's in 7th place, Craig Curtis next up, and Thomas Potter up to 13th, just having a quick check on the teapot, making good progress in the race as well. So this one at the moment, maybe in that little bit of calm before the last couple of laps storm, perhaps. Josh Martin still there in 3rd and looking okay. This one could be Andy might have done enough to hang on to this.
Sorry, Richard, you chose the exact moment to throw to me as I was sneezing. So
Oh, sorry about that. Bless you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think, well, Carroll has got a nice little gap, hasn't he, now, which he's enjoying. Dalton-Ayres, obviously, I'm not sure how much weight Andy Carroll has on board. Let me just have a very quick look at that. He is in 10th position in the championship with 10 kilos on board. So his tyres are going to last a lot better. Even Elliot Dalton-Ayres, who hasn't been around in this championship, has 15 kilos of ballast on board. So again, he's not really going to be much worse off. Josh Martin where is Josh Martin in the championship? He has 15 actually. So the lightest cars are all right towards the front. So there's not going to be any difference in terms of ballast, in terms of tyre degradation or anything like that. They don't have to worry about that. This isn't a Nicky Taylor versus Joel Lask incident again, where Joel Lask and the tyres are gone. Everybody is pretty much on the fair playing field in the top 4 right now, so it just comes down to driver skill.
It does. I haven't worked out championship points, by the way, because this is just all too fast moving. Normally when you get a real race day, you get a race and then you have a break of about half a day, so you can sit and work the points out between them.
Well, the computer sort of works that out for us, Richard. I'll be honest, I haven't worked out championship standings in about 2 years.
Yeah, much more difficult ask, isn't it, on Simcoms? Yeah, indeed, Rich Hayes saying like Steve is busy. So, Carol, we're looking at Josh Martin, still in 3rd place, and looking a little bit safer in that. So the last minute and a half, are we going to get any drama, or did the drama come at the start of both races? We've certainly had some great performances over the two, and Elliot Dalton-Ayres might be in line for driver of the day as well. A first and then a second from the back of the grid. We've got to do some serious thinking about that. Nicky Taylor in 7th, almost as sort of reached as high as he's going to climb in this one. So I'm guessing this is going to be the last lap, isn't it? Because they're doing 1:11s, and Andy Carroll, barring any silly mistakes, looks like he's got this one in the bag and will be a 6th different winner of our series.
Eric Axelson has come into the YouTube chat, and obviously Eric Axelson, you might not know, Richard, is teammates with Josh Martin. I don't really know why Eric is unable to make this championship, but he's quite often in it. And he is, apparently he's moving house, actually. It's the reason why. It's a pretty good excuse, to be fair. He's come in the YouTube chat and said that Josh the Innocent Martin makes a lovely move. So I'm sure Josh will probably plead innocence on that one as well when it comes to the Brad Smith discussion. But with 15 seconds left to go, I think Andy Carroll's done very well and probably done enough and he'll probably feel like he deserves a decent result out of this evening, doesn't he? Because he did a damn good job from his qualifying perspective. He ended up getting collected in the first couple of corners in race 1, but it seems, Richard, that he's gonna have his race win here today. Andy Carroll rounds out the final corner, and he'll take the checkered flag here at the mini JCW VRRC Challenge Cup thing that we're doing. I've completely forgotten the name of it, actually, then all of a sudden. Elliot Dalton Hess is in second place and Josh Martin in third. I am sorry, Rich. I was trying really hard not to call it the actual championship that we're not allowed to call it, and I think I ended up doing it.
Well, these things happen, and I'm sure everything is taken in the right spirit by all concerned. Down in Mile crosses the line, as two does. Number 60, Ollie Pearce, all getting a little bit frenetic. We're talking about drama going on right the way to the flag. And there's Thomas Potter about to make it home as well in 13th place. So it's good points for Thomas to add in. Johnny Ogden going through as well. So, yeah. Pretty eventful evening's racing, really, from everybody, and congratulations to that. Now, in terms of podiums, we're going to mix it around again, or do you want to do Josh and Andy, and I'll do? Which means I've done Elliot twice then, so maybe if I do.
Yeah, we could swap it around, but I'll tell you what, we'll flip a coin potentially as we go to a very quick advert break before we come back with the interviews in whichever order we fancy. Right,
so into our interview. Sorry, talking
sorry,
over
Richard,
each other.
I'm about to jump in and say we can chat to our third place finisher, can't we, I suppose? And of course, that was Josh Martin, who, well, we said, Josh, that you love the limelight. The reason why you've been missing on the podium is because you haven't had a chat to us in so long. Well, you're here now, and I tell you what, that was a great race for it.
Hey, it's about time. I seem to keep finishing 4th and 5th recently, so nice to be a few places up.
Well, you were about to finish 4th in that one as well before you tried I described it as ambitious. Richard described it as robust. What do you describe it as? Move on, Brad Smith.
It was a bit more robust than I anticipated it to be. Because I didn't come from that far back or anything, so I was already kind of alongside. But I did wash out a little bit more than I wanted to. I was just struggling with the front left tyre wear. Which wasn't as bad for me on this track as the previous rounds, but yeah, I just washed out a little bit with the tyre wear and did rub the side of him, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, take us through that race generally, actually. Oh, actually, no, take us through the first race, because that didn't seem like a really... it looked like a very hard-working top 10 finish, wasn't it, from your perspective? It looked like a very, very difficult race.
I must have done about 20 overtakes in that first race. I didn't have a very good qualifying with throwing it in the wall on my first lap and then invalidating a couple of laps. Yeah, yeah, shock. So yeah, my qualifier wasn't very good, and then the first race I got a brilliant start, and I was up to like 6th or 5th, and a group of us went side by side into chicane, and Nathan behind, he just I didn't actually see it because obviously it's behind me, but he said he just misjudged it and understeered into my rear corner, which sent me off into the field. So that put me right down to the back, and I worked my way all the way up, and it was chaos, but really good fun. And yeah, I went side by side with I can't remember who's in what car, but I went side by side with the green car into the final chicane, I think, with 2 laps to go, which would have been for 5th place. But yeah, he didn't quite leave me enough room in between him and the tyre bundle, so I hit the tyre bundle and it lost me a few other places. But other than that, I felt my race pace was quite good.
Well, that would have been Stu Henderson, and actually, we were contemplating what on earth happened in that incident because Stu, I think, ended up well outside the top 50 or around 15th place or something like that, and you ended up obviously further down than the likes of Church House and stuff. So, was it just a case of just two people really not wanting to give up the top 5 positions?
The first incident when I lost like 15 places, that was literally just Nathan just understeered, nothing else to it. And the second one, I don't think it was Stuart. I think it was John Higgins maybe.
Right,
I don't think it really affected him at all. So
okay, fair enough. Well, fair enough. Well, a third place is a step in the right direction for you, Josh, isn't it? Can you kick it on from here? Can you get rid of that qualifying gremlin?
yeah, I just need to get better at qualifying. But I was exactly the same in real life. It's always been my struggle. Could do with keeping it on the black stuff a little bit more as well. That'll help a bit.
I've heard that's pretty good advice over the racing career that I had as well. One that I didn't really follow very often, though, unfortunately.
See, it's good. I'm doing a rally actually at Castle Combe on Saturday, so it's good. It's good practice for that. All this driving off the black stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You can just now you'll be 3 seconds quicker in the rally stages next week, won't you? So it'll be all good. Right, Josh Martin, thank you very much for coming and having a chat to us. Hopefully, we'll be having a chat to you again in the near future.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Well done, Josh. Good luck for the rally as well on Saturday. So, second position, Elliot Dalton-Ayres. Elliot, many congratulations. You said you were going to go for it, and you did. Talk us through the first couple of laps and what you saw and how you dealt with it.
Well, the first half of the first lap was just absolute chaos. Just constantly looking ahead or looking at your radar to make sure you weren't going to get pinged off into someone else. But yes, got a few taps on the rear, but managed to hold it, and then just kind of picked my way through the rest of them, and then obviously got to second, I think.
You did, yeah, superb job. Did you think you was in with a shout of the win? I mean, we thought we might squeeze another lap out of it, but time wasn't on your side, was it?
I was trying so hard to get to Andy, but he just had a bit too much of a gap when he got past Brad or Stu. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, big congrats to Andy. I can't remember the last time he had a win. But yeah, overall it was a really fun and really good night.
That's good, not too shabby. And are you back with us next week? You're going to do the rest of the series?
Yeah, I'm here for the whole rest of the season.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that because it adds another dimension to it. And, championship's one thing. And you might still haul yourself up in the standings because very often drivers need the drop score, the drop round, and a little bit more. Sometimes it works out that way. So that's good. So what's your week like? How quickly are you back on? I know a lot of you guys spend a huge amount of time in the sim practicing. But, joking aside, you probably have got to do studies as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to do some, but also I want to do well in this, so it's just going to be a mix of revising and doing laps at Oulton, I think, which is next. But yeah, I really like Oulton, so hopefully we're quick there as well.
Yeah, it's a good track, isn't it? So I've seen a lot of announcements this week about the Motorsport UK Academy. Is that something that you would do? Something that a lot of real-world drivers and sim drivers do? Is that something you're aiming for? Or where do you see your career and sort of education taking you?
I don't really know what that is, if I'm honest. But currently, it's just karting and, well, a lot of it. I mean, we've just started up a team, so hopefully we can build that and grow. And yeah, I'm actually racing this weekend at Warden Law.
Okay, how many people in the team?
Oh God, I think
Always
there's
a difficult
about
question.
3 or 4 carts at the moment, and maybe
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 people. But yeah, we're hoping to expand and yeah, become more popular.
Very good. Try and keep an eye out for that. Try and hook up and see what's going on. So many drivers you have to follow now as a commentator up and down the country. So anyway, Elliot, Super Days Racing, well done, mate. And we'll go to our winner, which is Andy Carroll, and that will be with Jack.
Cheers, Rich.
Yes, and Elliot, is worth noting as well when it comes to your GCSEs versus sim racing. You can't win a Camus Simulation Direct Drive wheel if on the GCSEs. So you pick whatever you want to do. Right, Andy Carroll, big congratulations on the race win there. I have to say, once you got Brad Smith, I was I know we're not supposed to show bias, but I had my fingers crossed that you'd be able to put in those consistent laps and get that win at the end. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, took a bit of time to get past Brad, and I was watching that gap to Elliot. I think it was about 6 seconds when I got to Brad, and then by the time I got past Brad, it was nearer 2 seconds. And I think thankfully, got a bit held up behind Brad as well. So yeah, just had enough because he was taking sort of 2 or 3 tenths lap out of me. So yeah, finish line came just in time. I think another couple of laps, and it would have been really, really tight. But,
you do have this tendency, it's a bit of a cliche with you almost now, to turn up at 1 or 2 events out of an entire season and just be absolutely rapid and almost have it come from nowhere. Having said that, you have done this twice now in these 3 rounds. You did it at Donington, I was reliably informed, and now you've done it here again. Are you clicking with this mini more than maybe you've done before in terms of consistency?
possibly, and obviously I've been, I mean, I definitely seem to be further up the grid. I was, I think, 3rd on the grid today, and I was 4th last week. So yeah, I'm definitely finding good qualifying pace, which is, like Josh, has always been a bit of my weakness, is putting in a lap when you're under pressure in qualifying. But yeah, last few weeks and in practice and stuff, I've been putting in good times and stuff. So yeah, I seem to be gelling well with the car, and hopefully that will transfer into a broader range of cars going forward. But yeah, it's nice to be back on the podium, and yeah, it's disappointing with the race one. Kind of had a coming together with Craig, I think, and which steered me off into the barriers, and then it was kind of just trying to decide whether to poodle around to have a good position for race 2 or kind of just gun it and go for it. And I sort of went for it. I think I got back up into the top 10, and then I dropped it on a curb and ended up back in, I think, 15th or 16th by the end. But yeah, no, it's a good couple of races really, apart from just that start of the first race.
Well, it very much gave us good entertainment as well, it has to be said, Andy. It was great stuff to watch, yeah. And I have to say, I'm always got my fingers crossed that when you get into a podium position that you manage to stay there, because we do always get the sense that you do appreciate the hard work that goes into getting a race victory. And we always like to see people obviously get that reward for that hard work as well. So, Andy, a massive congratulations for taking the race win. Hopefully we'll have a chat to you in the coming weeks.
Hope so. Thanks, guys.
Well done, Andy. Great drive. Really good to watch. And to Elliot, who was 2nd, and Josh, who took 3rd place. So, 3 events, 3 different pole sitters, 6 different race winners so far in the 6 races we have had. And we are moving on to the Oulton Park configuration next time, which I'm looking forward to. That's our 4th event of the Camus JCW Mini Cup, powered by Phoenix Racing. One more thing to do before we go. We had a fairly heated debate about who should be driver of the round. There were some good performances today. Very, very close. The sort of a split decision, really. Should it be Nicky Taylor? Could have been Nicky Taylor. Nicky, come back, have another good day. In the end, we went for Elliot Dalton as our driver of the day. So congratulations to Elliot. A big, big thank you to everyone for watching, everyone for taking part. Rich Hayden and first-time co-commentator Jack Oliphant. Been a pleasure, mate. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time.